I recently found some old videos of work I did in my previous company, Exogeny, and I just thought it might be worth making a video to showcase some of that work. Here we see a robot example. What's interesting about this was I was running the simulation itself of this robot in the cloud in Amazon and using WebSockets to communicate with a visualization in a web browser. You can see the robot is moving around at different points depending on the color of ball I select in the upper right hand corner. You see the strip chart showing the information about what's going on um, with the mechanical system, and you can see on the far left the positions of all the various joints in the robot, and I can adjust those manually as well. So if I select a point like a colored dot, it will seek that point. But if I just move those sliders, I move the different angles, and I can see the result down at the bottom, the response of the robot. Both torques and currents as well as positions can be plotted in that way. And otherwise I can just go back to selecting the points. I can also look at different axes of the robot. So what you see there is I'm selecting different tabs that's focusing on different axes. And then by clicking on the different windows there, the little plots that are on the side, I can bring different aspects of the model to the forefront. In this example, it's largely about bringing data into the system. So the idea is there are three different subsystems. There's a cooling subsystem, and in that subsystem, I can go in and change some of the parameters for the underlying model. I have a way of visualizing the layout of the pieces in the cooling system, so I can see overlap of different pieces. These are essentially radiators. You can change the dimensions of these radiators, and this is sort of immediately adjusts the view that you see down below of how the pieces fit together. So this is largely about entering data around a simulation, data that is fairly high level, and there's different aspects of the cooling. You can go in and change some of the material properties, for example. So the idea is to organize the data. Now I'm opening up the part of the data that's associated with the vehicle itself, right? So not the cooling system. And you can see there are physical units associated with these different things. And in fact, there are even ranges for some of these physical units. So if I give a value that's not within the expected range, it flags that. And it shows with you see the error there, the red text indicating that there's some validation concern here. And if I switch to different subsystems, you see the validation indicators remains up there. So let's say I come back and I fix that issue. Now I can adjust the different values, change them around, and then I can go and look at the results. Now there's no simulation data yet, but I can run a simulation, for example, and it goes off, it runs a simulation, and it'll then come back with some results when it's done, and I can see various different aspects of the results, different facets of the analysis I might want to look at, drive cycle, for example, or the temperatures of various things. And I might want to go back and change something. So I go back and I change a parameter value to something else. Now, if I go back, you see that there's no simulation data anymore because I've changed the parameters. And I wouldn't want somebody to be looking at results that didn't correspond to the data that they had just entered. But what was interesting about this application was I also kept track of the history. So there was sort of an initial design there. I mean, we only touched on it for a second. There's an initial design there, and then there were two subsequent analyses. I can pick one of the intermediate analyses, and then if I look at the results, I see the results of that analysis, and then I can switch back to another analysis. So I actually see the differences there between this analysis and its predecessor. So what changed? I often refer to this as leaving a breadcrumb trail. So let's say then I go back to the vehicle and I make a change to some value. Then my results now, I don't know if you pay attention, you'll see they went from colored to gray. That's because the results then were stale, so it changed. There were no current results for that particular design I was entering. But now you see in the history what I was going for here, which is the idea that we not only have a breadcrumb trail, but there may even be forks in the road in this breadcrumb trail. And so I wanted to be able to visualize that. And this is essentially part of the the way I see doing data management in applications like this. And so for each different subsystem, there are different parameters organized in various ways, and I can run a simulation for each of them and then go back and see how they all sort of relate to each other. And the blue dots indicate designs where there are results available. And you see that the color changed from green to blue there when the results became available. So some of them are just designs where we haven't done the analysis yet. Some of them might be analyses that are pending and so on. Anyway, those are just some interesting videos that I had made. I wanted to sort of make a note of those. They had been removed from YouTube because I had closed the account associated with Exogeny, but I figured it was, worth just showing some of the interesting stuff that was done during that time.